Hello, and welcome to Mandarin Slang Guide, MSG, the Chinese learning podcast that tastes great and probably isn't all that bad for you. I am Joshua Ogden Davis, and I'm here to bring you the most delicious words that aren't in your textbook and the stories behind them. LGBTQ issues can be hard to talk about in Chinese. Homosexuality was decriminalized in China in 1997, but the policy and censorship is still very conservative, so it can be hard for an outsider, like me, to learn the words that people really use to talk about LGBTQ issues. That makes the issues even harder to talk about, which reinforces the taboo, etc. You get it. So to break free from that, I sat down with a queer filmmaker and activist, Ashley Jiang, to get equipped with the words we can use to talk about LGBTQ people and issues. But before we got down to the language, I had a chat with Ashley about her work and her stories. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Shuhua. Should I call you in your Chinese name?
Either one is fine.
Okay, hi, Shuhua.
I don't actually know your Chinese name.
Jiang.
Jiang.
That sounds intimidating. Like the way you
Explain yourself.
Yeah, I'm not used to people calling me my full Chinese name. Yeah, even my mom doesn't.
So what do people call you if they call you in Chinese?
In Chinese?
Mm-hmm.
橘子.
橘子.
That's my nickname. That's
why you have a little orange at the end of your little tangerine at the end of your WeChat name.
Yeah, because jiang, they usually just for some weird reason they pronounce 绝 as 橘.
Oh.
So that leads to 橘子. So I've been called Little Orange since elementary school.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Ashley, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Should I reply to your question in that demeanor?
You may use whatever demeanor you find appropriate.
Okay, so I'm Ashley. Chinese name is Jiang, and I'm born and raised in Shanghai, China. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm a documentary filmmaker and also a queer activist.
So what form does your activism take? How do you activate?
I'm running this project called Out China. I started it 3 years ago when I was still in grad school back in Los Angeles. So this project is about media advocacy. So I record and film stories of Chinese queer people, like couples, individuals, and activists, and I just put these stories online. So my goal is to humanize these people and in order to raise awareness and increase visibility of this very underrepresented community. Also, we do explainer videos. For example, the introduction to China's LGBT in 4 minutes is the most viewed video on our YouTube channel.
It's quite good.
Yeah, I tried. So mainly videos, but also we have some written pieces with those photos and some art projects. So I'm trying to make it a more multimedia storytelling project. But right now, because I'm the person who's mainly operating it, so I produce videos mostly.
So what led you to start doing Out China?
So, because I came out at the age of 18, but back then I didn't have any knowledge of what does LGBTQ even mean. But later on, I got a chance to study gender politics in France, and later on went to LA, which is the center of the LGBTQ movement. So after those exposure to the queer activism in Western countries, I felt like I also want to tell stories of my community because from the Western media, they usually just they tend to exoticize and sensationalize the queer communities here in China. So I feel like because I have been an active member in my local community, so I want to share my experiences and tell the stories from a more objective perspective. So that's why I started Out China.
I had originally conceptualized Out China as something that you were doing for the queer community here. But now that I think about it, Out China is largely in English, isn't it?
Well, my original plan was to put it as pure English because the goal is to share the Chinese stories with the international community. But later on, I found out actually Chinese people really need this kind of information because nobody dare to talk about these issues loudly or actively in China because of the censorship and their personal stakes because these people live in China. But back then, because I was living in LA, so I don't have that kind of personal pressure, So yeah, it was originally in English, then we changed it into bilingual.
Are there any stories that have struck you as being particularly representative or particularly fascinating?
I'll say each of them, well, like I feel like each story is my baby, so
Aw.
I don't know if I can pick one particularly. But from a filmmaker's perspective, I really enjoyed the latest piece I produced, which was published on this year's Valentine's Day. So it's like a love story between an American girl and a Chinese girl. So they threw this public, very high-key wedding in Chengdu, in Sichuan province.
Wow.
So they don't, and this wedding is not just like a family celebration, but also they invited their queer friends to their wedding. And when they do the dance, they invited their queer friends to stand up to dance with them. So they actually used their wedding as a kind of activism in China, which I feel is very badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also their love story is pretty sweet. So yeah, that's by far, it's because it's very sweet, like optimistic. And beautiful. So I really like it. And obviously, those followers on my Weibo also love it. So it got almost like 3.8 million views before it was taken down this year.
Taken down?
Yeah, but it lived for like 4 months because it was posted in February and it was taken down in June. So I tried to upload it again, but I felt like the censor apparently just locked it.
Yeah.
So the AI did its job.
Yeah.
So it was never allowed to publish again.
Chengdu is one of the more accepting liberal sort of cities.
It used to be, but especially, in the past 2 years, I would say, because there's a local NGO trying to support like queer activism in China.
Right.
So that fund existed for only like 2 months before it was shut down. So because people felt like Chengdu is a safe haven for people in China, so they choose that specific city. But like the censorship and the strike down just became like more and more severe. So
flew too close to the sun, attracted too much attention.
Yeah.
Are there any stories that you feel are especially humanizing or that sort of embody a message that you really want to portray to foreign audiences or even to local Chinese audiences?
I say it doesn't come from one single story, but from like the group of messages conveyed from these videos. Because at the very beginning, I started Out China with interviews with only LGBTQ activists in China, meaning those people who work in the NGOs. Because I started project because of my inspiration from those queer activists I met in LA, at the LA LGBT Center, where they have a program supporting Chinese queer activists. So I feel like I'm just giving them the mics, giving them the chances to speak out, and people will take whatever messages they want to take from these stories. So basically, I'm providing a platform for them to speak out in their authentic voice.
Through the process of creating this content and from listening to so many people's stories, do you feel that it has changed yourself or your own views in any way?
For me, I just feel like I finally found the mission of my life because with the very chaotic political and social atmosphere, I don't have enough facts and information for me to choose a side or to even utter what my like political viewpoints, right? But for me, because of my personal experience growing up as a queer person, I just feel like that's something I 100% have believed in. But we don't have the equal rights. We don't have like enough production, and we are even oppressed in China. So I just feel like that's something I really want to put my life's efforts into doing.
These things can be hard to talk about, largely because they're not necessarily accepted by the mainstream. And one of the effects of that is it's hard to know the literal words to use to talk about it sometimes. So would you like to assist me in explaining some of these words that people can use?
Yeah, I'm going to educate you on the queer slangs of China. But we can start from the very basic, like, because LGBTQ is a Western creation, right? So
Right.
we don't, how should I say it?
I'm fascinated by the point you just said, that LGBTQ is a Western construction. Is there sort of an analogous Chinese construction?
There is like an overarching term like tóng liàn, but that is not
Right.
overarching. That's definitely not an umbrella term because that excludes the bisexual and trans community and queer community and non-binary people.
So the word you just used, 同性恋, what does that mean?
同性恋, its literal translation is same-sex love.
Right. 同 means same. 性 means sex, and liàn means love. So
Right.
同性恋, same-sex love.
Right.
Yeah. And that, as I understand, is sort of the almost the clinical way to discuss homosexuality.
I think it's an official word, say 同性恋, but it only includes lesbians and gays.
Right.
So because LGBTQ is still a very sensitive topic in China, people don't dare to talk about it in social media or in public spheres. So people don't say 同性恋 out loud because that might sound very radical or too much. So people just you will say a more like a subtle and euphemistic way. So it's 同志.
同志.
同志is literal translation is comrade. Like back in the days during the revolution, 同志.
Yeah. So if you see a Mao Zedong quote that has the word comrade in it, the Chinese is probably 同志.
Right.
And 同 is the same, 同 as in 同性恋. It means same. 同志. What does the 志 mean?
志 you can understand it as ambition. 同志 meaning we have the same ambition. So that's kind of like the camaraderie.
Right. So you're saying that the more commonly used word could be 同志.
Yeah.
How did that come to happen?
So that word actually come from Hong Kong back in the 1980s. So the first person who popularized this word is a Hong Kong screenwriter called Lin Yihua. He's a gay screenwriter, and he threw this first ever Hong Kong Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, and its Chinese translation is 香港同志电影节.
Hi, it's Josh from the editing room. I didn't want to break Ashley's flow in the interview, but I do want to explain the name of that film festival. It's 香港同志电影节. 香港 is Hong Kong. Shangang is translated as Hong Kong because that's closer to the Cantonese pronunciation of those two characters. The next two, 同志 is comrade or gay or lesbian, and then 电影节, 电影 meaning literally electric shadows, but that means movies or films, 电影, and then 节 means festival or special day. A lot of holiday names have 节 as the last word, like Spring Festival, 春节. So, 香港同志电影节, Hong Kong Comrade Movie Festival, 香港同志电影节. All right, back to the show.
香港同志电影节. So instead of 同性恋, he just used 同志. And actually he derives it from that phrase from Mao Zedong, 革命尚未成功，同志仍需努力.
The revolution
hasn't been done yet.
Is not completed yet. Comrades, we must keep working hard.
Right.
Okay. That's a great ironic use of the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of revolutionary if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every time you say,这个人是同志, so it's like we are having the secretive revolution together, but we don't dare to put it on table yet.
That sentence you just said, 这个人是同志. 这个 meaning this, 人 person, 是同志 is a comrade. This person is a comrade. 这个人是同志.
Correct.
Yeah.
But also you hear it often in those CCTV news, like
What?
Like those political figures, you just say 某某某同志.
Right. Back so soon? Yeah, I want to talk about what Ashley just said, 某某某同志. That 某 is very useful. It's used to stand in for an indefinite noun. What does that mean? If I say 某个人, 某个人, that just means some person. The 某 means like somebody. So 某某某同志. Those three 某 are filling in for the three characters of someone's name. But she's not talking about a specific person, she's talking about how people use 同志. So she's using 某 to fill in for an indefinite subject here. 某某某同志. So keep that 某 in mind, it's quite useful. Okay, back to the show.
Like those political figures, you just say 某某某同志.
Right.
So it's like a very respectful way to call these political figures.
Right.
But also it's a way that the queer people use to refer to each other.
Let's get back to something that I sort of glossed over. We talked about 同性恋. How would we use 同性恋 in a sentence? Like, what's the grammar here? Could I say 我是同性恋?
我是同性恋, yeah, I'm homosexual.
Yeah, so 我是, I am 同性恋. And you can use 同志 the same way. 我是同志. 他是同志.
Right. So 同志 is more like a noun. because 同志itself, comrade, is a noun. So 同性恋 is more like an adjective.
Okay.
But you can also say 他是个同性恋, but that way it might be a little bit derogatory. 他是个同性恋. So it's, yeah.
I imagine it in English, if I were to say he is a homosexual, that would also feel derogatory because it's too proper. It's almost putting it in a clinical way.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Almost diagnosing it as a condition or something. Okay. I want to skip back to, we talked about 同性恋, but 同性恋, the xing, whatever, 性恋 is used for lots of different things, like 异性恋 means straight, right?
Heterosexual, yeah.
Heterosexual. So 同性恋, same-sex love. 异性恋, 异 means opposite. So 异性恋, opposite sex love, is straight or heterosexual. And also 双性恋. 双 means
bi, both. So 双性恋 means bisexual.
Yeah. 同性恋, 异性恋, 双性恋. Yeah. We talked about 同志, but there's a female form of this too, right?
It's easy. You just put 女. You just put female comrade to it. So 女同志.
女同志.
Yeah. But I would say people don't use 女同志as frequently as others because and also it differs from different places. For example, there's a very famous singer in Hong Kong, He Yunshi. When she came out in public, she just say 我是同志. She doesn't even say 我是女同志 because 同志 is like an umbrella term to refer to the gay, like refer to homosexuals, right? So you will rarely hear people call each other 女同志 here in China, but you will just say la la, lesbian.
Oh, la la.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the character for la? It's the character that means pull, right?
Pull.
So
yeah.
a pull.
Pull.
But obviously it's not a pull, right? La comes from the English
word lesbian.
Word, lesbian, yeah. La la. You sent me another word that I hadn't seen before that I love. Lesbian.
Lesbian is just actually from lesbian. So lesbian, the sound is very similar.
And I love it because literally it's Thunder Silk side. And if I had to choose a side, I would choose the Thunder Silk side. There's no question. That's clearly the best one.
Well, but when I talk about lesbian, I'm only thinking about the fabric for some weird reason. Just lace, the edge of the lace, lesbian. That's what I'm thinking about all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not fashionable enough to get that reference. So would you say that maybe the most common way, and I hesitate to use the word inoffensive, but one of the most acceptable ways to refer to someone as a lesbian would be la la.
La la, exactly.
So would I say 她是个啦啦?
她是个啦啦, yeah.
她是个啦啦.
Yeah, or 她是啦啦, either way.
So you can have the 个 or not have it.
Yeah.
Same as 她是个同志 or 她是同志.
Exactly.
Both are okay. Right? Okay. Nice.
But before we move on, I would say most people, even though we have those Chinese words, but most people just use gay and less. They just use those Western creations because that's even more layers of protection for the queer people here. Because,
what do you mean layers of protection?
Meaning you don't have to say anything in Chinese. So your parents or your relatives or those people who don't speak English will have no idea what you're talking about.
Huh.
Yeah, so that gay or that just, my friend is, 就是我朋友是 gay. My friend is gay. Or 我朋友是 les. My friend is a lesbian.
Yeah. 我 me 朋友 friend 是 is 我朋友是 gay. 我朋友是 les.
Yeah. That's like the most common way people talk about queer issues here.
On the subject of bringing in English words, there are different kinds of la la, right? You sent me a list of 3. Could you give us a rundown?
Yeah, but before we start, I should say, because people still have those binary thinking here, right? So maybe in the United States, people are already over those, like you're a butch, you're like a femme, people already are over those labels. But here in China, even the concept of queer is still new to people because we still like black or white. We don't know, we're not comfortable in those gray areas.
Right.
So we still have these labels, which I personally don't like. But people still use them all the time on dating apps, in social situations. Okay. So I'll just put that caveat here first. But basically there are like 3 categories of lesbians.
All
So
right.
it is T, P, and H, exactly as you hear in English. So people just call each other like 你是 T 吗? Meaning, are you a tomboy?
Oh.
你是 P 吗? Are you like a femme presenting lesbian?
If it means femme, why is it P and not F?
So it originates from the Taiwanese word 婆, as in 老婆.
Yeah.
In
老
wife.
婆 means wife. Yeah.
So that means like a female figure. So that's like the opposite to tomboy,
Right.
which is like more masculine presenting.
Right.
So T means tomboy, P means femme, and H is versatile. So somewhere in between.
Then why H and not V?
So H means half, so it's somebody in between. So you can either be a tomboy or a femme,
Yeah.
just versatile.
Okay, so let's review what we've talked about so far. So the sort of the clinical, most proper way to describe homosexuality in a scientific way would be 同性恋, and heterosexuality 异性恋, and bisexuality 双性恋. Okay, but the non-clinical, non-scientific, accepted way to talk about it would be
同志.
同志, comrade, and 女同志 is not commonly used. Instead, we use words like
Lala.
yeah. Or the less often used but infinitely more metal lesbian. So we're talking about LGBTQ, right? We've got, hold on, L, B, G.
We've only covered L and G.
L and G. For B, we said 双性恋. But is there a better way to talk about it?
No, there's only one way to talk about them.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't have much of like attention and exposure, so they only have one word.
So what else? We still have a few more letters here.
T, so transgender in Chinese, 跨性别.
跨性别.
跨 means transgress, like trans.
Right.
跨性别, 性别 means gender.
跨性别, crossing gender or transgendered. We have one more letter, Q.
Q, so in English it's queer, so in Chinese it's 酷儿.
酷儿.
Cool, so mean when you say somebody's cool, that's very baffling. Cool just it's like exactly as you hear it, cool.
Yeah,
like if somebody is cool, you can say 你很酷.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the show before with the different guests, how cool is sort of just a transliteration of the English cool, and you can use it in the same way.
Right.
But here, 酷儿, you added a r on the end, so it's just a transliteration of queer.
But also 儿 in Chinese means son. So also meaning
like a cool kid.
A cool kid, yeah. But yeah, son, kid, not only son, not only the male part, but kid. Yeah, cool kid.
Is this word commonly used? Because as you mentioned, LGBTQ, this acronym is a Western creation. I have never heard the word queer before. Is it commonly talked about here?
Well, for people within the community, they have the awareness of the concept of queer, because it's like an umbrella term to talk about people who have like unorthodox, abnormal, quote unquote, gender expressions or sexualities. So it's more commonly used within the community, but for people outside the community, I feel like they don't have any idea of it.
Yeah. How would you use that in a sentence?
他是个酷儿.
他是个酷儿. So the same as 同志 or 啦啦.
Yeah.
他是个. Can you say 他是酷儿?
Yeah, either way. 他是个 or 他是 both as not an adjective.
Okay. So I think we've done it. I think we've got all the words in there.
Right.
Haven't we? Let's do a review. I will quiz you on your Chinese.
Please. Challenge accepted and feeling nervous.
Ashley, I think you spent too many years in America. You've forgotten your Chinese.
Shame
Let's
on
do
me.
the rundown. What is the clinical scientific word for homosexuality?
同性恋,
Heterosexuality.
异性恋,
Bisexuality.
双性恋.
Okay, so far so good. We're getting there.
Yes.
What is the more commonly used, acceptable, comfortable way to refer to a gay guy?
A gay person.
A gay guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gay guy as opposed to gay girl, right? Because there's two different words for it.
Well, for both gay guy and gay girl, you can call them 同志.
Right. Yeah. But if it's a woman, we might say something else, such as
拉拉,
yeah. Okay. Two more to go. Transgendered.
跨性别,
Okay. And queer.
酷儿.
Congratulations, you get 100%. You're the best. Well, thank you very much, Ashley, for coming and talking to me
No
about
problem.
this.
My pleasure.
That's all the MSG we have for you today. If you want some more, or if you want flashcards, find us on Facebook or Twitter. Just search for Mandarin Slang Guide. If you want to join our WeChat group and have a chat or even meet some of our guests, send us an email. The email is mandarinslangguide@gmail.com, and I'll pull you into the WeChat group. Thanks again to Ashley, of course, for being a wonderful guest. If you want to know more about her project, Out China, you can search for it almost anywhere. I'll put a link to her YouTube channel in the description, but basically just search Out China and you'll find it. And then thanks as always to Himalaya for being a great place not only to listen to podcasts, but also to host your podcast for free, like I do. Himalaya, it's free! Also, I want to give a very special backwards thank you to heteronormativity for making the topic of this episode relevant and necessary. And of course, as always, last but not least, thank you to you, the listener, for listening. I live for your feedback, so drop us an email or find us on Facebook or Twitter or WeChat or wherever you do your thing. And I'll be glad you did. So, 再见, 再会, 再聊. Bye bye.